I draw a lot on my iPad, and I really mean a lot because it's basically become my main art tool at the moment, and I've been using Procreate on the iPad specifically for about 7 years or so, I want to say, so we go a long way back. I actually started doing digital art on the iPad, but it wasn't always easy, especially in the beginning. I struggled a lot. I didn't really know how to kind of create a workflow for myself to make the art that I wanted to make, but over time I slowly figured out what things work for me, what kind of tools and techniques I like to use, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I will show you a bit of my digital art process and also introduce you to some of my favorite tools and things that I incorporate into my Procreate workflow. So the first thing I actually want to show you is the TourBox, which is basically a digital art shortcut tool that looks like a little controller. It's really fun to use. I got to try this earlier this year when the company reached out and asked if I wanted to try their product, and I've really enjoyed using it ever since. You can use it for drawing on your computer, but it also connects to your iPad and is a really helpful accessory to use when drawing in Procreate, which is why I was really excited when TourBox reached out to sponsor this video. So we're going to have a bit more of a look at this, and I will show you how I incorporate it into my drawing process. So this model specifically is the TourBox Elite Plus, and it has so many different buttons on here that you can customize to add your own shortcuts, and it's really fun to use in Procreate. So I really enjoy using the different dials on this. As you can see, I can turn my canvas using it or zoom into the drawing here. I don't use those quite as much. I personally still prefer using my fingers to like zoom in and out. And the shortcuts that I like using the most on Procreate here are this large dial, which I use to adjust my brush size. I also have an undo and redo programmed here, as well as 2 buttons to switch between brush and eraser. Also, the button on the top here that I use to select the lasso tool because I use that a lot. And it just makes the process a lot more smooth and intuitive because I don't need to pause drawing to select any of the tools on the toolbar. I can just press a button to get whatever I want. If you're interested in upgrading your drawing setup a bit with a TourBox, then I have some Black Friday deals linked down below in the description box for you, so you can save some money on your new digital drawing shortcut tool. Additionally, I have 2 more accessories that I always use when I draw on my iPad, and that's this adjustable stand that lets you change the angle of the iPad and makes drawing so much more comfortable. I will try to find the one I have and link it below for you guys. And I also use a silicone grip on my Apple Pencil, once again just for comfort, because it's not the most ergonomically shaped stylus in the world, but that's okay. That's what we have the grip for. So I think now it's time we get drawing. I recently started working on this small side illustration project I'm doing that's involving my original characters. No one's surprised. I really love drawing them, and one of my favorite things to do is to put them in new settings and situations that basically give me an excuse to draw them in new, fashionable, exciting outfits. So the theme this time is like medieval JRPG armor knightly looks. Maybe that wasn't the best description, but I'm sure you can kind of tell what I'm going for here from the drawing. And I actually have never really dabbled in drawing armor before, and there's a lot of different kind of textures and shapes involved there that I'm not very used to drawing. And surprisingly, I felt like I didn't struggle as much with this as I thought I might, and I think that all kind of comes down to me becoming more confident and comfortable with my drawing process that allows me to adapt pretty quickly because I have such a stable foundation. So I'm going to share with you how I usually put together my drawings in Procreate. I frequently get comments and DMs asking me what brushes I use, and it's really not that exciting actually. I only use 2 brushes on Procreate, and it's the standard round brush and one of the pencils called a render pencil, and that's all. I use the smudge tool here and there and maybe incorporate the odd textured brush for some finishing touches, but usually all I do is use those 2 brushes. And from my process, you can kind of see I usually start out pretty flat, like I just lay down all of my colors and decide on my color scheme, and then I build up detail on top of that. I don't actually do line work. I just sketch out my drawing with the pencil, then put down the flat colors with the round brush, and then I render everything on top of that. And this really helps me to retain the original character of the sketch I made, and it just looks a little bit more loose and also actually makes the process a lot more quick. I used to completely lose my mind over doing like traditional line work because I could never get it to look the way I wanted it to. It was always stiff and looked off. I used to always look for like different brushes to use online and figured that that was my issue and that, you know, getting the right brush would fix me. but now I literally just use 2 of the basic brushes that are included in the program. And I think what I'm trying to tell you here is that the brushes are not as important as you think, and you can find a process that suits your drawing style. Another, I guess I'm gonna call it, technique that I've been using a lot in most of my recent illustrations actually, is adding glow and intentional blurriness to both the highlights and the sketch slash line art portions of my drawings. And once again, you don't need a special brush for this. This is something you can easily achieve just using the tools that Procreate gives you. So what I like to do is when I'm working on the final details of my illustration, I'll add all of the places I want to have like sharp, really bright highlights, like on the armor here. Then I go ahead and duplicate that layer and click on the magic wand tool, and there you will find a setting called Gaussian blur, and we're going to apply this effect to the duplicated layer, which will create this blurry outline around all of the highlight shapes we drew. And sometimes I like to even duplicate the blurred layer again and merge them to amp up the opacity a little bit, and I think this just gives off a really nice dreamy looking effect that pulls the illustration together in the end. And like I mentioned, I also sometimes apply this to my line work slash sketch layer. I will duplicate that and then blur out the color of the line work underneath to soften the edges of the drawing a little bit. One of the great things about the iPad is that it's so easy to use both at home and on the go, and since the TourBox is also very small and portable, I decided to take it with me to a cafe where my friend and I were drawing together. I tried to take my iPad stand with me when I go to draw outside because it's just more comfortable, but of course with the iPad already being quite big, since I have one of the large models, it's not always super practical when you don't have a lot of extra space in your bag. So I've been playing with the idea of eventually downsizing to a smaller model, especially because I do draw outside a lot, but it's hard to decide whether I should prioritize portability or comfort.
Für so einen Nicky Sugar Kick. Give me all the milk. Go by. Ich weiß nicht, ob es funktioniert. Come on. Master of Cute Sticker Sheets, actually. My manufacturer. I'm doing it all and I'm going insane slowly.
A few days ago, I started taking sketch commissions again. It's been a while, but the process for them is pretty similar to my regular illustration workflow, just with a few less steps. And I think this process I came up with for myself works really well for that because the final product does have color and some detail and the lines look loose and alive, but it's still pretty like time efficient, so the commissions don't have to be as expensive as a fully rendered piece would be. And this is also the process I usually use when I'm conceptualizing things, when I'm coming up with ideas and I want to block out colors and get like a solid, very clear idea down without spending too much time on it. So usually that involves the first 2 steps I showed you in my process earlier, the sketch slash line work and the flat colors, and then I will very roughly block in the areas that have shadows and maybe some color variation in the skin and little details, but these are not very refined. Like I just kind of jot them down with the round brush with really broad, generous strokes. And I don't bother with cleaning things up too much. Of course, it saves time, but I think it also definitely retains some of the like fluid nature of the sketch and makes the piece look a bit more alive and actually hand-drawn, which I think is fun. Not all your drawings have to be perfectly rendered, of course. I think on my Instagram, I kind of post like a healthy mix of finished illustrations and also stuff that is just a little bit more sketchy, and that's how I personally enjoy doing it. Like I mentioned, I've been using Procreate for many years now, and I really changed my approach a lot over that time, and I only just maybe like a year or 2 ago settled on the current process I have, and it's been working well for me so far, but it might change again in the future. But if you're currently feeling kind of lost or like overwhelmed with digital drawing, either in Procreate or other programs, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna figure it out, I'm sure. There are basically infinite ways to do things and so many different possible approaches you could take, and I just figured out my own along the way. Maybe if you found some of the things I incorporate into my process helpful, you could try them out. Feel free to let me know how that goes for you. I will also put some links to the tools and accessories I used in this video in the description box as well, so feel free to check those out if you're interested. If you have any more questions or things you're curious about, feel free to ask me in the comments down below and I will try my best to answer. Thank you for joining me for another drawing and yapping session, and I will see you guys again very, very soon. Bye bye!